I think most of us know what a Linsanity Run is by now, but for those who don't, let me explain quickly. In the middle of the 2011-2012 NBA season, the Knicks signed point guard Jeremy Lin to a non-guaranteed contract. Lin at the time was a nobody and just an extra body for the Knicks active roster. But out of nowhere, for almost 2 whole months, the Knicks went on this magical run with Jeremy Lin leading the team, and the nickname Linsanity was born. So today, we're gonna do NFL Linsanity Runs. We'll start our list with Travis Fulgham. Travis Fulgham was a wide receiver taken out of Old Dominion who was taken in the 6th round by the Detroit Lions. He was inactive for the entire 2019 season aside from the final 3 games. He recorded no catches on 3 targets. His time as a Lion ended in the 2020 training camp as he was waived before the season started. He was briefly picked up by the Packers in the preseason, but ended up on the Eagles practice squad for the start of the 2020 season. Fulgham was promoted to the active roster for Week 4 on Sunday Night Football versus the 49ers. Although he only played 60% of the snaps, Fulgham found his way to 57 yards, a touchdown, and his first ever catch in the NFL. A week later, in a shootout at Pittsburgh, Fulgham exploded for a career high in yards and receptions. He put up 152 yards on 10 receptions and a touchdown. For the next 3 games, he exceeded 70 yards, including another score, and it looked like Philly found something here. But with Alshon Jeffrey and first-round rookie Jalen Reagor returning to the lineup, it meant less snaps for Fulgham, and his snap counts took a massive hit by week 12. In the final 8 games, he failed to go over 30 yards in any game. Next August, Fulgham was waived and bounced around with the Dolphins, Broncos, and Packers practice squads. He played in just 1 game in 2021 for the Denver Broncos, but did not record any stats. He has not played in the NFL since. Our next Linsanity run comes from a running back who did the unexpected on national TV in 2014. After being cut from 2 practice squads as an undrafted rookie, the Patriots took their chance on Jonas Gray out of Notre Dame. After being on the Pats practice squad the first 6 weeks of the season, he got his first NFL action in Week 7 versus the Jets. Pats starting running back Stephen Ridley tore his ACL, and the need for a lead back was there. In Week 8, he received 17 carries and totaled 86 yards on a respectable 5 yards per carry. Fast forward to Week 11, coming off their bye week, the Patriots faced Andrew Luck and the 6-3 Colts at Indianapolis on Sunday Night Football. Gray, who was a big bruising back, was given a career-high 37 carries, which resulted in 201 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. This performance landed Gray on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and all of a sudden he was a household name. He became the first running back since 1921 to enter a game with 0 career touchdowns and then scoring 4 in 1 game. Gray's 4 touchdowns accounted for 24 offensive points, and the only other player in the league that year to account for that many points in a game was Marshawn Lynch, and we're talking peak Marshawn Lynch. So you're probably thinking, how did Jonas Gray perform the week after his monster performance on Sunday Night Football? Well, he actually did not play. Not due to an injury or a starter returning, but it was actually because Gray was late to a practice during the week, and Bill Belichick did not tolerate that. To make it worse, in that same week, New England signed running back LeGarrette Blount, who was released by the Steelers. Blount, who was more of a proven player at that point, was made the starter for the rest of the year. As for Gray, he was pretty much faded out of the offense, and only recorded 91 total yards the rest of the 2014 season. He was made inactive for 2 of the 3 Patriots playoff games, including their Super Bowl victory versus the Seattle Seahawks. Right before the 2015 season, Gray was cut by New England and spent the year on the Dolphins and Jaguars. He had a couple of decent games, but was never able to top or even come near what he did versus the Colts that previous season. After his stint with the Jags in 2015, he never played in the NFL again. Although it was a short 2-year career, he still bounced back from a serious knee injury in college, put up a record-breaking performance on national TV, and has a Super Bowl ring to show for. Our next Linsanity run brings us to the quarterback position. This guy at one point did not pick up a football for 8 months, and a couple of years later did something so improbable that that he now has a statue outside of an NFL stadium. That, of course, is Nick Foles. After being drafted by the Eagles and spending 3 seasons there, Foles was traded to the St. Louis Rams for Sam Bradford and picks. During his time with the Rams, it was miserable, and Foles admittedly lost love for the game of football. After nearly retiring, he ended up in KC for a year backing up Alex Smith. He did not play much, but in 2017, Foles was brought back to Philadelphia to back up second-year quarterback Carson Wentz. Through 13 weeks, Wentz was rolling and so were the Eagles, and Wentz was on pace to win the MVP. But after Wentz tore his ACL in week 14 at LA, it was now Nick Foles next in line to be the starting quarterbacking a team that previously had Super Bowl aspirations with a healthy Carson Wentz. Many people wrote off the Eagles after the injury, but that was a bad idea. Foles finished the regular season looking pretty good and even had a 4-touchdown, no-turnover game in his first start. The Eagles entered the playoffs with a first-round bye, so all they had to do was win 2 games to make the Super Bowl. They pulled off a nail-biter of a victory versus the reigning NFC champion Falcons, and the championship game they beat the living hell out of the Vikings to advance to Super Bowl 52. It was Tom Brady versus Nick Foles, and somehow, someway, the backup Foles went toe-to-toe with the GOAT. Foles played very well in that Super Bowl and even caught a touchdown on the famous play, the Philly Special, which Foles now has a statue for outside of Lincoln Financial Field. To be fair, Foles pretty much had 2 separate Linsanity runs. As his 2013 stint with Chip Kelly and the Eagles, he arguably was the most efficient quarterback in the league that year. Foles finished out his career bouncing around to a few teams, mostly as a backup, but he did earn himself a nice $50 million guaranteed contract with the Jaguars in 2019. I think Foles will always be viewed as a solid backup quarterback, but his runs with the Eagles in 2013 and especially 2017 were truly elite. Last on this list, we gotta go with Tim Tebow. I feel like Tebow fits the description pretty perfectly because Linsanity runs are supposed to feel magical and not feel sustainable. But like all Linsanity runs, the fall off for Tim Tebow hit him like a ton of bricks. I actually just remembered there was a name for this, and they called it Tebow Mania. And for the record, Linsanity has a much better ring to it. For Tebow, he was an absolute superstar at Florida, winning the Heisman in 2007 and winning 2 national championships. Projecting him to the NFL, however, was not a sure thing. Tebow was looked at as a late first round, early second round type pick, and the Denver Broncos scooped him up at number 25 overall in the 2010 draft. Josh McDaniels, who was the coach at the time, said all the right things, but did mention that Tebow was unlikely to start as a rookie. Despite not even starting that year, it didn't stop Tebow from having the number 1 sold jersey in the NFL in 2010. In 2011, though, after a 1-3 start, John Fox made a quarterback change, announcing Tim Tebow as the starter. His first start of the year was in fact magical. The Broncos offense had done nothing, and they were on the verge of being shut out late in the 4th quarter in Tebow's first start. But that was until Tebow led the Broncos on back-to-back touchdown drives and tying the game with a 2-point conversion, with 17 seconds remaining. In overtime, Denver's defense forced a fumble, Matt Prater knocked down a game-winning field goal, and Tebow Mania was born. From weeks 9 through 14, the Broncos did not lose a game and found themselves 8-5 after that 1-3 start. This meant that Tebow was 7-2 since taking over as a starter in week 4. Although they lost their last 3 regular season games, it was still enough to win the AFC West at 8-8. This meant that Tim Tebow and the Broncos got to host a playoff game. They hosted the Pittsburgh Steelers, the defending AFC champions, and Denver found themselves up 20-6 at halftime after an electric first half by Tim Tebow. Pittsburgh did storm back late to force overtime, but Denver won the toss, meaning Tim Tebow had a chance to have a walk-off victory in his first ever playoff game. Tebow, who was an outspoken Christian that was often seen praying on the sidelines, found himself at 236 passing yards entering overtime. 80 more passing yards would result in 316, which ironically would resemble a Bible verse that Tebow often painted on his eye black, John 3:16. Like it was scripted, the first play of overtime, Tebow found Demaryius Thomas for a game-winning 80-yard touchdown. It was Denver's first playoff win in 6 years, but sadly, this was the peak of Tebow mania. The following week, Denver had to play Brady and the Patriots in New England, and it was an absolute slaughtering. A 35-point loss, which ended up being Tim Tebow's last game as a Denver Bronco. Denver was able to sign Peyton Manning that offseason, and you can't blame them. And Tim Tebow was sent to the Jets for a 4th-round pick. In 2012, Tebow only had 8 pass attempts, and his role with the Jets was more of a discount Taysom Hill, to put it bluntly. Mark Sanchez was the team's starter. Tebow would sometimes come in on certain packages in the red zone, but ultimately his time as a Jet was really underwhelming. After that season with the Jets, Tebow never played in a regular season game again. He did, however, bounce around in the preseason with a couple teams like the Patriots and the Eagles, and was even on the Jaguars preseason roster in 2021, mostly due to Urban Meyer, his former college coach, taking over the Jaguars that year. He played minor league baseball, he did media, broadcasting, and filmmaking, but never really played a major role in the NFL after that magical 2011 run. That's going to do it for this video of NFL Linsanity Runs. If I forgot any, let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and consider subscribing for more NFL videos, and I will talk to you guys next time.